Welcome again to another Curators Chat. I'm Jason French, Curator of Collections. Today we're in our third floor collections facility and I'm talking with Joseph Andrews, who is a NKU graduate student, and he and I have been working on a series of online videos and exhibits on folk art. So Joseph, this is primarily Appalachian folk art, is that correct? What are your goals and what do you want to tell people about folk art in our region and Appalachian folk art? What is really the items that you want to point out as you've collected some of these pieces to discuss?
Well, working with the public history program at Northern Kentucky University, I got involved with the Urban Appalachian Community Coalition up in Cincinnati, and it really piqued my interest in kind of the Appalachian migration and the Appalachian population here in the region, and it also kind of had a personal, on a personal level, affected me because most of my family comes from various parts of Appalachia. On my mother's side, they're from Owsley County. I've got family from Perry County and Hazard, Kentucky, and it really just kind of gave me this opportunity to kind of look into my own roots and my own cultural influences. And like today, I have these knives here that my Uncle B, his name's Bernie Bowman, from Owsley County. And
so you were looking at resourcefulness and ingenuity and kind of the art of folk art, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and it's not just, I mean, we'll be talking about quilts and we've talked a little about corn husk dolls, wood carving, and maybe you don't always think that, somebody who has a little hobby of knife making, that's a folk art, but it can very much be a folk art, right?
Absolutely.
And that was with your Uncle B. What we see here is him taking, throwaway items, sometimes worn out saw blades or bush hog blades, broken knives, and rehandling them, and not only maybe regrinding them for his purpose, but he's also embellishing them, right? Because there's not just a blade there; he's engraved and he's embellished them with art and images on them.
Yeah, definitely a reflection of some of these pieces. Definitely have kind of a reflection of his artistic know-how, I guess. This one specifically, it has an etching in it of kind of a farm scene with a little pig. It has the words bush hog. And then one thing that I really enjoy is on the back, he has his own little maker's mark. It's a tiny B for his first initial, my nickname for him, Uncle B.
Folk art comes in various forms.
Yeah.
It's not just basket making or quilts or wood carving. As your grandfather has the paint pendants that he worked at a car paint shop.
Worked at General Motors in Norwood.
And he would, pick up the drippings that had hardened at the end of the night and carve them into shapes. So folk art, especially Appalachian folk art, is very much an expression of creativity, and sometimes they're very practical items. Sometimes they're purely, kind of frivolous things that maybe you don't have the money to buy, but you make yourself. And you see that with homemade instruments and other things. What I love about your uncle's knives is there is a little bit of a kind of a tongue-in-cheek aspect to them, and he's got these are knives that you said he sold knives at a flea market, right?
Yeah, he sold knives at the flea market down in Boone County. They were pretty nice quality knives. Whether or not these were kind of early examples or something that he was just kind of doing on the side to kind of perfect the craft, but it's just really interesting because, like, with this one here, it's got a small etching in it about a Reagan landslide, 1980. So, kind of a little snapshot on you know, who he was, you know, politically aligned with 40 years ago.
Well, he also he gemmed or did file marks on the back of that blade that would have all been done by hand, and there are a lot of those down the spine of that blade. They almost seem like saw teeth, but they're actually just there to help you grip the blade a little better when you're doing skinning or whatever. And that's a modified Skinner blade, so it has some practicality to it. Or it could have been you could use it also for fishing with that curve. It's just a really great, handy little item. You can kind of see the practical aspect of what he was doing, but then also his perfecting his etching and his engraving on blades, and just the art of it.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that really fascinates me about Appalachian folk art specifically, is that you know, you whether it's a quilt, whether it's a blade, whether it's anything, it seems to have kind of a utilitarian purpose, right? Like the quilts, you're keeping your family warm. This, it's for hunting or using around the house, or, you know, it's a tool. But at the same time, like I said, you have these little reflections, these little artistic expressions in the pieces, you know, and that just kind of, that says a lot about, I think it's very, the level at which you see that, I think, is a very specifically an Appalachian thing. And I think it's very unique to Appalachian culture in that sense.
Yeah, I think just the adding the artistic flair to something that could be just a simple tool or a very practical item, wanting to embellish it or just decorate it in a very Appalachian way is very much significant to the culture. You know, and it's nice to have something you're proud of. It's nice to have something that's got it's a little pretty, that's interesting, and I can see that. You know, especially if you don't have a lot of resources to have something made, or to, you know, to have the nicest watch or whatever the newest and best is. It's nice to just have something that's yours, that you decorated, that you did in your own, and that's kind of part of that culture, I think. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to like and subscribe to another Curators Chat, and we'll see you next time.